Hello everybody, I'm Rowan6 with Rowan6 Entertainment, and welcome to a new series, a audiobook series of my fanfiction, The Dragon Hero Dovahkiin. The background art for this fanfiction is created by me. If you're interested in me doing art commissions for you, the link to my business Discord is down below. There's also a link to my community Discord, as well as the fanfiction link. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Chapter 14. The first thing Izuku felt when he woke up was that something was on his chest. Cracking open an eye, he was met with white hair and a pair of rabbit ears blocking his view, which caused him to freeze up and his mind to go blank. It took a second for his mind to reboot as he tried to remember what happened last night, and then everything came back to him in an instant. Oh right. He and Rumi got shit-faced drunk on a bottle and a half of Nord mead, and apparently Rumi gets clingy when drunk. Hence why she's now sleeping on top of him, and drunk Izuku did not have the heart or mental faculties to say no. Slowly moving her onto the sofa across from them, he had to muffle a laugh. Because Rumi was clinging to the half-drunken bottle of Nord mead like it was the most precious thing in the world to her, and when he moved her to the couch, she only clung to it tighter. Pulling out his phone, he took a picture of the site for future blackmail material. And he knew if he didn't get this picture now, Serena would never let him live it down. But as he looked at the picture on his phone of a passed-out Rumi cuddling a bottle of Nord mead with a little bit of drool hanging from her mouth, he could not help but chuckle. But then he finally noticed the presence behind him, and before he could turn around, it spoke. "Looks like you had fun last night." The familiar voice of Lydia spoke from behind him. Turning around, he saw Lydia there. She looked like she was on her third bottle of Nord mead, and without any of the signs of her being drunk in the slightest. Sighing, he sat in the chair right next to her. He was sorely tempted to get another swig of mead, but resisted it. It was quite clear to him that his current body did not have the same tolerance to alcohol that it once had, and the stuff had high levels of alcohol. So much, in fact, that one glass of the stuff is enough to get you smashed. Luckily for every Nord, including Lydia, they had high levels of tolerance to alcohol, evidenced by how many bottles Lydia can put away. He thinks her record before she came back with him was 26, and his was 7 before passing out. Don't tell me you're still out of it. What, are you back to being a weak-livered milk drinker? Lydia said teasingly. Well, apparently my younger body doesn't have the same tolerance for alcohol that my older one had. I also don't think we have enough mead for me to gain that back anytime soon. Izuku said as he rolled his eyes. Lydia just snorted in amusement at his response. She remembered quite fondly when they both went out drinking together for the first time. He was a lightweight when it came to Nord mead. It took him years to build up the tolerance for the stuff. Oh well, she would have to find a way to get his tolerance back up. But then an idea struck her like an arrow to the knee. Wait, when you did that sabotage job for the Thieves Guild, didn't you steal the guy's recipe? So why don't we just make some? Lydia asked curiously. Izuku paused for a second and thought it over before responding. We could. I'll have to spend a lot of money on equipment, and I'll have to get a brewer's license, but I don't see why not. But I got a serious question for you, and I'm pretty sure you're the only one that would give me a straight answer. Izuku said, now looking seriously at Lydia. Lydia just gave him a look that said, go on, I'm listening, before taking another sip of mead. Why aren't you freaking out, since you were obviously here before I woke up and saw Rumi snuggling with me? You're usually overprotective when it comes to that stuff. Izuku said seriously, which Lydia only snorted in amusement in response to. The girls we protected you from only wanted a one-night stand, and trust me, Serena and I made absolutely sure that their interest in you was genuine. Anyway, I think that's enough for me tonight. I'm heading to bed, you should probably get some sleep too. Lydia said, finishing off her bottle before heading upstairs. Izuku just sat there deep in thought on what she said before Lydia's words finally reached his muddled mind. When he finally comprehended the end part of what she said, he looked at the time and saw it was 3 a.m., so he quickly agreed with her that he should go back to sleep. He walked over to the closet and grabbed a blanket for Rumi, then covered her with it before going to his room and sleeping off the rest of his hangover. But as his head hit the pillow of his bed, the rest of the conversation hit him like a truck. So they're really interested in me, huh? Izuku asked himself before falling asleep. One day later. Katsuki Bakugo was not having a good day. He just got out of a meeting with Nizu, but what made it worse, his old hag and his old man were brought in as well. Apparently, the principal and now his furious mother, who had grounded him for a whole year, weren't so happy when he blew away that extra for trying to look down on him during the entrance exam. He knew if that stupid Deku were there, he would have done the same thing. So he did not regret what he did to that raccoon-eyed, pink-horned bitch, especially when her stupid face would be a constant reminder from now on. Now every time she looks in a mirror, she is reminded who's at the top and above her in every way. He even said as much in the meeting, which apparently made the principal force him to go to Hound Dog every week before and during his time at UA. He did not understand why his mother and father looked so mortified at what he did, and was quite angry at them for agreeing to that stupid rat so quickly. Once he became a hero, he was definitely moving out of his old hag's place for sure. It was obvious to him now that they were nothing but a hindrance to his rise to number one. Although he needed to make some plans to catch that stupid Deku so he could do the same thing to him that he did to that pink bitch. But somehow that stupid Deku keeps slipping away from him, either disappearing behind corners or straight up running away once he gets a sight of him like a stupid coward. It doesn't matter, once he gets home, he will plan on how to get him once and for all and show him the price for running away from him. But once he got into the door of his house, though, his mother straight up threw him in his room and locked the door. He wasn't concerned about her actions, this wasn't the first time, after all, that she had done something like this. But the look of disgust on her face was odd, perhaps that rat didn't sit right with her. He was quite disgusting after all. He only shrugged and went to his computer to listen to some music. But downstairs, Mitsuki Bakugo was calling her dear friend Inko. Because how her brat referred to Izuku and what he said about him on the way back filled her with nothing but dread. She needed to confirm it with Inko and then beg her friend's forgiveness for not seeing it. If she had to, she would pull him from UA and send him to a correctional institution instead. There was no way in hell that she would let her own brat become a villain. But when the phone finally picked up, she could immediately tell that Inko wasn't in a good mood from her voice alone. "Oh, Mitsuki, what is it?" Inko said with an icy tone that could freeze over a river during summer. She only heard that tone once, and it was when she found out that her husband, who shall not be named, straight up and left her, once he found out Izuku was quirkless. This was confirmation enough, she knew. This caused Mitsuki to sit down at her table and start sobbing. "Inko, sob, I swear, sob, I didn't know, I just found out, sob. I swear, sob, I swear I did not know, sob. I raised a monster. Mitsuki was breaking down completely now as she rambled apologies as her eyes attempted to match the legendary Midoriya tears. But she was knocked out of her sobbing by Inko's now much softer voice. Mitsuki, I think it's better if you come over for us to discuss this. I have some things I need to show you. So I'll send you the address to our new place. Inko said softly before hanging up. Inko knew when Mitsuki broke down like that, she was way more upset than she could ever be. And the fact that she referred to her son as a monster, not to mention that broken voice of hers, just didn't sit right with her. It was obvious that she was not the only mother who failed her child, and she needed to know the full story of what happened to Izuku. So she quickly texted her the new address to the apartment that Izuku bought her and set the phone down on the table. She pulled out a single bottle from Izuku's personal stash that he left in the house. She looked at the name that clearly labeled the drink as Nordmead. She only shrugged at this and placed it down on the counter. It should be fine if Lydia can drink a couple of bottles of it without any problems, surely she and Mitsuki could handle one bottle. 4 hours later, after Mitsuki showed up, Izuku walked into the apartment to see his mother passed out with his aunt Mitsuki. Between them was a single half-drunk bottle of mead and the biography he wrote. He gave that biography to his mother so she would know exactly what happened before and during his time in Skyrim. Snapping a picture of them for the inevitable picture book that he was creating from first-time users of Nordmead. He then picked his mother up and placed her in her bed. He then went to his aunt and placed her on the couch, then covered her with the same blanket that he covered Rumi with just the day before. Then he went to his room to get some sleep for himself. After all, he knew when they woke up, he had a lot of explaining to do to his aunt and was going to need all the energy he could get. The next morning, Mitsuki woke up to one of the worst hangovers she had ever had in her life. Slowly opening her eyes, she winced at the light in the room. She looked around and quickly noticed that she was on the couch in Inko's new apartment. Picking up the scent of coffee, she pushed herself off the couch and then made her way into the dining room, where she immediately noticed two girls that she did not recognize sitting there. One of the girls had brown hair that reached her shoulders. She was wearing a sports bra and yoga pants that nicely showed off her figure. Her amused eyes looked at Mitsuki as she sipped her coffee. The other girl had raven black hair, blue slitted eyes, and pale skin. She was also in a simple t-shirt and skinny jeans. She too had an amused look but also a sympathetic one that spoke like she knew her pain. Mitsuki just stumbled to the coffee maker and poured herself a cup before collapsing to the table where the two girls sat. Now you know what happens when you get into my stash, Lydia said, as she hid a smirk behind the cup of coffee in her hands. Mitsuki just growled at her as she took a sip of coffee before responding. Your stash, you're telling me that fucking liver buster is yours? Where in the hell did you even get something like that anyway? Mitsuki said, obviously annoyed. Oh, I think that specific bottle was acquired from Helda in Whiterun, Lydia said as she calmly sipped her coffee. But the confused look on Mitsuki's face made Serena laugh. Oh, Lydia, stop twisting her tits, Serena said, smiling at Mitsuki, then she continued. I'm Serena, and this is Lydia. It looks like you did not get too far into Izuku's biography he wrote, so I'm going to tell you that Lydia and I are Izuku's comrades from Skyrim. I'm pretty sure he wrote about us in his book. You just haven't gotten to that part yet. Serena said, smiling. But that smile quickly disappeared as she spoke up again. But you're that brat's mom, aren't you? The same brat that tortured Izuku for years. Serena said seriously, and now even Lydia looked serious. Mitsuki put down her cup of coffee and covered her face as she attempted to hold back a sob. As she attempted to compose herself but failed to do so, she spoke. I didn't know, I just found out last night, I swear. God, if I knew, I would have put a stop to it, I wouldn't have even let it get this far. Mitsuki said as tears now ran down her face as she cried. Lydia and Serena just shared a look before Lydia sighed. But before she could say anything, a pair of strong arms wrapped Mitsuki up in a tight embrace, and the familiar voice of Izuku spoke up. I don't blame you, Auntie, I never did, and I never will. It wasn't your fault. Katsuki is a prime example of what society has become, and don't blame yourself for not seeing it. I took extra care to hide it from both you and my mom. Izuku said as he embraced Mitsuki. Why? Mitsuki said as she barely choked out that single word between her sobs. But it was enough for Izuku to get what she meant. When my dad left due to my quirkless status, you and Uncle Masaru were the only things that got my mom through it. Your friendship with her means so much to her, and I was so afraid that if you found out, it would tear you apart. Not to mention, during those times, I didn't see the problem with what Katsuki was doing. I did not understand that what he was doing to me was wrong. The teachers and the other kids treated me terribly for so long that it was just what I thought was normal. I know it sounds fucked up, and it is. It took me a long time to realize that and a longer time to heal from it. So don't worry because, in my eyes, that part of my past was nothing but the crucible that melted me. And my travels through Skyrim were the hammer that strengthened me and shaped me into the man I am today. Izuku said as Mitsuki just cried into his tight embrace. Her crying lasted for a good hour before Inko showed up, which caused another crying fit between the two. Luckily, Izuku installed an industrial-strength drainage system to make sure that the legendary Midoriya tears did not flood their new apartment. This lasted for another 2 hours, which greatly concerned Lydia and Serena. Like, seriously, how do they have that much water in their body? But when they finally managed to stop crying, Mitsuki started asking questions about Izuku's time in Skyrim. He was quite happy to tell them multiple tales of his travels and the adventures that he went on. It did take them a couple of minutes to convince her to believe what he was saying was true. But when everything was all said and done, the sun was finally setting, Mitsuki went back home, and the rest of the evening was used for relaxing until they needed to go to bed.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!